morning. Thank you for coming out on your Saturday to FCP Exchange. This is the first one that we're doing, and welcome. I guess a couple quick questions, probably before we dive in. How many of you guys are using Final Cut 10 at this point? Okay, awesome. And how regularly are you guys using Final Cut 10? Are you guys professional editors? So you guys make money using Final Cut 10?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Not enough.
Not yet.
So I, as far as I knew, that wasn't possible. But I guess, what's interesting sort of to me is, we've been doing this, I don't know, I guess I opened the program day one and then I closed it and I left it alone for a little bit. But I came back when multicam happened and started to use it then. And I think what's sort of interesting is I remember doing this 2.5 years ago. We would do these little meetups, Neil Smith and I, and I'd come in and there'd be 5 or 10 people who would all look at me. Steve used to go to those, and they'd look at me like I had 4 heads, and now it's interesting to see how the software has developed and how there's now the idea that you could edit professionally in Final Cut 10 was totally insane, probably 1.5 to 2 years ago. And I think, so I guess I'll just do a couple random questions around here. So how many of you guys are doing narrative? Okay, a bunch of hands. How many people are doing documentary? All right, commercial? And industrial? All right, so there's kind of an even spread, so it's not really concentrated in one area, and that's sort of what I'm finding too.
Promo and marketing.
Promo and marketing. So that's how many promo and marketing? Look at that. So there's a ton of, I think there's a lot of different workflows, and that's sort of what this series is going to be about that we're doing, is we're trying to cover all of these different topics and workflows and getting people in to come and see how to use this, I guess, I don't know, ecosystem's an overused word, but it's an ecosystem. And there are a host of products and solutions built around Final Cut 10, Motion, and Compressor that when you start putting the pieces together, it's a completely different workflow. How many of you guys work the same way that you used to work when you edited in Final Cut 7? How many people, when you talk to Final Cut 7 and Premiere editors, understand what you're talking about? Okay, and it's a constant battle and a struggle. And I think the problem mostly stems from the fact that unless you've worked this way, you would never think to work this way, because it's a completely different way of working. It's a completely different model, and you need to wrap your head around it if you actually want to take advantage of it. If you try and make it work like Final Cut 7, you're going to have a lot of problems. And I found that when I teach, for instance, it's way easier for me to work with people who are not already professional editors. I can get them assembling a more complicated multicam in a single day than you could ever even think about doing in Final Cut 7, and they don't even really know what they've done, which is also part of the other problem. So the real question is, how do you address this sort of gap in terms of there is this really cool way of doing things and no one understands it, and in many cases it's gotten to the point where no one's even willing to look at it. So how do you address this problem? It's an education problem. And so the idea is to have this series of events where we come in and actually just present things that people are doing in the real world, and hopefully get people to look at this platform with open eyes and sort of see it for what it is, which, in my opinion, is the most modern way of editing video. And I guess, I'll take a couple minutes and just do a quick, sort of round the room. What we want to create this place and have it be a place where it's sort of addressing the concerns of the people who are coming. So I guess I'm curious if anyone has any things of like, I want to see this. We want to know because we're going to be doing more of these. So what do you guys want to see in terms of workflow and some of these other things and presenters and that type of stuff? Where are your problems these days, and where, like, I guess, does anyone have anything in particular they'd love to see at a future event? Yeah, back there.
My name's Chris. I'm going to jump into Final Cut X.
Hold on a second. Yep. It's like down here.
Thank you, Phil. And my name's Chris, and I'm still using Final Cut 7. I'm going to jump into Final Cut X. I do industrial. What would be helpful to me? Today we're focused on Final Cut X. What would be helpful is the other programs, the other satellite programs around it. So something, to Motion, just a quick thing on Motion, how to get started, integrated compressor, how to use the right things. So kind of like the satellite software around Final Cut X.
So randomly, one thing you guys, if you want to get, how many of you guys are actually using Motion? You see that, Luke? Look how many are using Motion here. Anyway, yeah, Motion's an awesome program, and actually there's a lot of stuff in there. The best place, in my opinion, this is how I learned, is Mark Spencer's Motion tutorials are probably the best tutorials anyone's really ever done on anything. So they're worth buying. I know people don't want to pay for tutorials as much, but if you actually really want to learn how powerful that software is, get the complete Motion bundle. It's completely worth it. So for any of you Motion people out there, that is the best way to learn. Specifically, the rigging and publishing, 3D, and paint stroke tutorials are the best ones, in my opinion. So start there, and then they have the Motion Fast Forward, which will get you up to speed immediately. But I don't think anyone really has a concept of how cool Motion is, and probably something that we'll sort of show. We're going to be showing off the automatic duct plugin with After Effects, but I think the other thing that most people don't realize is that you can get After Effects and Motion to sort of work together. So Motion can be an additional step in your workflow, so you can get into After Effects, do what you need to do there, and then maybe take advantage of some of the things Motion does really well to build templates that are then reusable in Final Cut. And the way that Motion integrates with Final Cut is a very different way of looking at the event pipeline. Basically, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize too is the difference in this model is Final Cut is designing things to go outside in, whereas Premiere and maybe some of these other applications designed to go inside out. So you're in Premiere, but you're going to go out to Audition. You're going to go out to all of these other places. But if you look at what's happening in Final Cut, it's designing all these plugins in this ecosystem to bring things in so you don't need to leave the application, and you can largely finish right inside the app. And Motion is the perfect example of that, where everything you do in Motion is accessible in Final Cut. So what else are you guys curious about? Yeah.
Hang on a second.
Okay. Hey, my name is Mike. Bringing in media and having it then be able to go out archived, to be able to bring it in properly with a good system that then comes out on the other end, so I know what I've got to work with if I need to go to archival stuff.
So quick question, how many of you guys know what hard links are? Oh my God, that's amazing. All right. So that'll probably be something, I think our next session is probably going to be on collaborative editing, and we're going to cover some of that stuff in terms of media management and some of these other things where there's a lot of different strategies that you can use that are specific to Final Cut. No other NLE uses hard links, so you would never even know how to use them because you've never used them before. And this is yet another thing where it's you would just never know. Anybody else have?
What is a hard link?
There's a video on, so a hard link is basically, the long and short of it, and we'll cover it at some point, is that you can have the same piece of media if you use the Final Cut 10 directory structure to make sure that media can have the same amount of space, but it only takes up the space of one file on your hard drive, but it can live in as many places as you want it to. So basically, you no longer have to have clones and media management and all of this other stuff that you used to do in Final Cut 7. You only need the media one time, and it makes for a very different archive process. And there's just an absurd number of benefits to it once you really kind of wrap your head around it. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Gordon, and I was interested in audio in and out for higher-end Pro Tools mixing and or Logic, and then also how Final Cut really handles frame rate exchange from different types of media that come in. I get all kinds of different frame rates coming in, so I'm interested in how it's actually handling that.
Okay, so you'd love to see, and the long and short answer is that mixed frame rates are no problem. Mixed formats and frame rates are largely no problem in Final Cut as long as it's a supported codec. I'm going to be showing some stuff that you guys should really be keeping in mind in terms of getting out to Logic or Pro Tools, which is X to Pro workflow, and how if you set things up from the very beginning and take advantage of roles, your process can become extremely simple to delivering to your sound designer. So we'll be covering some of that today.
I'm interested in ways to integrate Final Cut 10 with other programs, and not just like X to Pro and such, but actual what's happening and what may happen with future interoperability, X to Avid, Final Cut to Premiere. I mean, which I know is a huge bag of hurt, but surely somebody, Wes, surely somebody can figure this out, because with what I do, it would be an incredible lifesaver and probably the single biggest thing that would allow the spread, the infiltration, if you will, of 10 into my world.
I mean, quite honestly, you know, your lips to God's ears. The problem, unfortunately, is not on the Apple side. The reality is AAF is an absurd, ridiculous format that no one besides Avid uses. And so getting into Avid from anywhere is a problem. Even getting from Avid to Pro Tools is a problem, which they're owned by the same company, so go figure. Anyway, oh, we got one back there. But I agree. I would love to see that happen. Unfortunately, there's really, you know, there's not a rock-solid, clean way to get into Avid from pretty much any other program. So it's not a unique issue to the Apple ecosystem. However, I think round-tripping and going to and from places, I think, is something where we can spend a lot of time. And we'll show, Mark's going to be showing After Effects today on how to get out with Wes's new plugin. You mentioned Wes, so.
Hi, my name is Martin. Hi, my name is Martin. And when I signed up for this, I was looking at this with great expectations. My background is still photography, and a long, long time ago, I was with a lot of organizations, and we morphed into getting the top people creative to give us ideas with multimedia, with all of the tools that we had. It kind of would address a little bit what Chris asked earlier. What's the beyond ecosystem? To maybe do like some speakers and say, I use this, this, and this, and look at how cool I made it. That's
So you want to
music
see
with
some
stills.
timelines and case studies and
Exactly.
and what people are doing in the real
Because the
world.
world is multimedia. And
Okay.
what does that really mean? And what can we use in the future?
Well, awesome. So on that note, I mean, that's really the goal here. So you're in the right place. That's really what we want this to be, is practical, worthwhile knowledge from the people who are doing it. And, you know, basically, the reality is we have been using Final Cut 10 from the beginning, and the workflow has changed. I mean, if you look at this slide, you know, this is what we were doing at IBC, and we were talking about some of the things we did on Focus, and quite honestly, that was a couple years ago. I would never do what we were doing on Focus anymore, but the template is there, and workflow changes and evolves, and our goal with this series is to show how workflow and new tools and how those are developing and how people are using them, so that if you come here every month or every couple months, you can stay current on what's happening in the world. And so, you know, the reality is that we eat our own dog food. Like, I just shot a pilot where for We Make Movies, which is my film collective, and pretty much we used shot notes, all of these things that we've been talking about, like shot notes, 6K, red, raw, having the sound recorder use rolls, all of these things, and this stuff works. I literally had no prep on this thing. I can pretty much go in and start editing immediately. I had the script supervisor filling out a document on Google Docs, and this worked. And we're working in a shared environment off the share station, and like all these things that people say you can't do, you can do. And that's really what we want to show, is how these tools continue to change, because depending on when you talk to someone, in 6 months your workflow is going to be different because technology is changing so much. So we want this to be a place where you can come and figure out what's actually happening, and frankly we can all learn from each other, because I think it's really hard to stay current on some of the things that are happening. And basically what's going to be happening here today is you are going to hear actual case studies from people who are out there using it. You're going to see some new tools that really haven't been shown that much anywhere. We're focusing today on sort of the ecosystem, which is on the plugins and third-party apps and some of the hardware products. And generally, this is not coming from the traditional, hey, we're going to promote this vendor thing. This is, here's what you would do with this product in a particular use case. If this is useful for you, hopefully you will find some benefit. If not, there'll be something coming up shortly that's going to be cool that hopefully will benefit your workflow. But it's not going to be standard product demos. Like this is practical, real information built around the tools that we would recommend people go and use in these workflows. So if you see something here, it's going to be something that we would actually recommend people do in the real world. And so that brings us to today. Here's what we're going to be seeing today. First up is going to be Mark Bach. How many of you guys saw what we did at NAB for FCPWORKS? Okay, so at NAB this year, we did about 17 hours of content that lives online that is all about workflow and Final Cut 10. Basically, the best way to find it is if you go online and or go to FCPWORKS, or just really Google FCPWORKS NAB Presentation Suite. You can track down our playlist, which has all of those videos. So if you guys want some homework, a lot of the people that you'll be seeing here, specifically Mark's presentation, in my opinion, was the best of the bunch that were at the presentation suite. He incorporates some incredible tools. He was showing off what he was doing at DirecTV with Lumberjack and some of these other things. So if you've been curious about a completely different way of how you can maybe approach metadata and why this matters, you should absolutely check out his presentation. Today he's going to be talking indie film and workflow. Apple is here. Luke Tristram from Apple is going to be presenting kind of a state of the union of where Final Cut is, and basically, we're thrilled that to have someone here. We've also got Mike Matzdorf, who you guys all know, who has his book, who basically literally wrote the book on feature film workflow for professional editors. He's going to be in here talking today, and then I'm going to be showing some stuff at the end. And in terms of how often these are going to be happening, the next one is going to be in January. We'll also be at NAB again this year. And really the idea is every few months we're going to get together and we want to show what's kind of happening for you guys. And there are going to be NAB is going to be very exciting. We're going to build off what we did last year and kind of hopefully take all of it to the next level. And a lot of this is going to be ramping up to NAB next year. And the next session is going to be January 16th. So if you guys put it on your calendar, we'll be back in January after the holidays. If you guys have any questions or you want to learn more, basically head on over to fcpexchange.com/help and you can get any information about future meetings, etc. And that's going to be launching this coming week. So just keep that website there. But if you go to fcpexchange.com, it'll be there, and then you go to help and you'll be able to find stuff out about future meetings and etc. Lastly, before we get going, I just want to take a quick shout out to some of the companies that are making some of this possible. You will notice, or you'll recognize a lot of them from the Final Cut world. We partnered with Peter Wiggins over at FCP.co to help get the word out and promote the event and build the community in Peter Wiggins' site. FCP.co, if you don't already know about it, is the #1 place to find information about Final Cut 10. Extra Pro, I've already mentioned, but they are the best way to get your audio to Pro Tools or Logic. Significantly better than just doing a Logic XML, for instance. Extra Pro is the way to go for that. I'll be showing that in a little while. Same with Color Finale. If you are looking to finish in Final Cut 10 and you know what curves are, that's really all I need to say about it. Basically, Color Finale is the color correction tool that allows you to finish in Final Cut. Philip Hodgetts is going to be presenting at the end of my session. Lumberjack, which is, I don't know, if you don't know what Lumberjack is, Patrick Southern is over there. He just come talk to him. He can give you a first-hand experience of why Lumberjack is largely indispensable for unscripted workflows. Mark Bach's going to be showing off Automatic Duck today and how that plugin can work if you have an After Effects workflow and it's brand new, and it's good to have Wes back in the community. Softron, if you are doing broadcast ingest, is just an awesome product. You can get 8 streams of HD directly into your edit. And last but certainly not least, I want to bring Andy up for a second. Andy, where are you? And basically this is Andy, and he is going to just talk for a couple minutes about what they do here and why this place matters. By the way, this is the coolest. Getting set up in here was about the easiest thing we've ever had to do in an event. And so the bottom line is, if you are interested in cameras and gear, etc., they do it probably better than anyone in LA. So anyway.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Andy Shipsides, hello everybody, thank you for coming, appreciate it. Here at Able, raise a hand who's been in the building before. So a number of you, right? So you have an idea of what we do here. We are, and thank you for the intro. We are, I think, a solutions company more than anything. We don't, we try not to specialize in one particular area, but we are a camera rental house. We're a camera sales company. The showroom floor you came through and saw. But we're also a solutions provider. We do a lot of integration work these days, actually setting up small studios. This is, again, basically what we've been doing here is setting up a nice environment to do these kind of events at, but we can do some similar things in different facilities. So, we do a lot of outreach and community growing, and this is what this is all about to us. I figure you give out and it comes back to you. So I'm just really happy to have you all here. There's some people out on the floor with Able shirts on. If you see them, say hi. We're here to help you guys. There's some coffee too, so enjoy that throughout the day. And some soda too. So just enjoy yourselves. Thank you for coming, and I really appreciate it.
So, if you guys do the whole Twitter thing, that is hashtag FCPX and hashtag FCP Exchange. Please, if you see something cool that you want people to know about, send it out on social media. We want to spread the word about this. Quite honestly, the main reason we're doing this is because we really feel like people need to know how cool this app and this ecosystem is. So you guys spreading the word helps that a great deal. If people are willing to say publicly that they actually like some of this stuff, it actually makes it easier, because the biggest single problem in the Final Cut world is talent pool. And that's the other big reason is, quite honestly, the hardest thing for me these days is when people say, oh, I really want to use it. And they're like, well, who do you know that's using it? And there's a handful of people, but there needs to be more, and people who are going into production on Final Cut 10 need to know that there's a community of people they can actually hire to come in and do this. So frankly, if you are out there, we want to know who you are. Please drop me an email. I'm building a database with people that I can actually recommend, because it keeps happening. And the bottom line is, please stay in touch with us. Please be a part of the community, and please help spread the word, because if you guys really want this thing to take off, that's the way that it's going to happen, is people being willing to speak openly about it and actually willing to talk about what they're doing with it. So with that being said, thank you guys for coming out today. It's really cool to see so many people here on a Saturday, and we've got some really great presenters, so I'm going to shut up and bring Mark up. And so everybody, please give a warm welcome for Mark Bach, and we'll go get this thing underway.